Hey guys, I know the video is late, I apologize for that, but this is another video that was run by you. I answer some of your questions in this video pertaining to the Buccaneers running back position, some free agent additions that the Buccaneers could make, as well as what I personally think about the Buccaneers having a large coaching staff. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. First about the Buccaneers running back position. Now these were questions asked by Zach Butts, Redstone Jack, Nightmare Inferno, Extreme Mike, and Bob Barker. Now a lot of you guys asked questions relating to, again, the Buccaneers running back position. James, who is the Buccaneers starting running back going to be? James, what's going on with Ronald Jones? Basically you guys just asked my thoughts on both of those situations, which is, very fair questions to ask because, as it stands right now, we've heard a whole heck of a lot of positive things about both Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones. So this is a position battle that's going to be very interesting to watch during training camp, preseason, and basically going into the regular season as well, because I could see it being a very fluid situation and eventually splitting into kind of a two-headed rushing attack between both Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones. Because again, Bruce Arians, he was very, very, very positively talking about Peyton Barber whenever he first came to Tampa Bay, and he still holds all of those comments to heart. He still believes that Peyton Barber is a very good running back. He also said some very positive things about Ronald Jones as well, talking about possibly doing some things with Ronald Jones that he did with David Johnson. Obviously, they're not the same type of player, but Bruce Arians is very interested in getting Ronald Jones involved in the offense. We also heard Jason Light also give some very, very positively glowing reviews about Ronald Jones as well. So it's very safe to say that this organization is both behind Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones right now. Makes sense. Obviously, Peyton Barber, he has been the starter for the past couple of years for this team. Obviously, I don't believe he's started every single game because I do believe there was one year where he was splitting some time with Doug Martin and it was a really weird situation. But it's safe to say that he's been pretty much the head running back for the Buccaneers the past couple of years. Then on the flip side, you have Ronald Jones, former second-round draft pick last year. The former coaching staff did not do a very good job with Ronald Jones at all. And now we are in the situation that we are in with him. It seems like Jones is gaining a lot more confidence. He's getting a lot more comfortable with this new Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich offense. And it seems like things are definitely swinging in his favor in terms of gaining some traction and making a very good shot at that starting running back job. I think in the end, to start at least, I think that this is going to be Peyton Barber's starting running back job to start. Now, things could definitely change somewhere in the regular season, but I think going into training camp, going into preseason, and probably going into the regular season as well, Peyton Barber is going to be that starting running back. We're going to see a fair share of Ronald Jones as well because he is definitely much more elusive in open space than, say, a guy like Peyton Barber. But Peyton Barber can do a lot of good things at the running back position as well in terms of power and elusiveness. He's got a very good blend of both, but I would probably expect to see, I would say probably like 75% Peyton Barber, 25% Ronald Jones to at least start the regular season, and then we could see that change somewhere down the line, maybe even like 60-40, Peyton Barber 60%, Ronald Jones 40%, or maybe even just a 50-50 split later on in the season, depending on how both guys do. If Ronald Jones starts to do really good, maybe he gets the upper hand at being the starting running back. It's just probably going to end up being a pretty fluid situation, kind of just seeing which guy does the best in the end, and I think that both guys are going to do very well. So we're going to be seeing a lot of both of them for sure in the rest of this offseason and preseason and the regular season as well, but I think right now I would give Peyton Barber the nod to be the starter, at least right now in this moment. Quick thing that we're going to be talking about is my thoughts of the Buccaneers having a large coaching staff. Now, this was asked by GatorBite100. Now, I really like this question because obviously it asks to pertaining, hey, James, what do you think about the Buccaneers having a large coaching staff? And I love it. I haven't got to talk about this kind of topic at all during this offseason, so I'm very happy that I get to address it here. I love the idea of the Buccaneers having a big coaching staff. And, all things considered, Bruce Arians' coaching staff isn't that much bigger when compared to other NFL teams' coaching staffs. Okay, it is a little bit bigger for sure, but it's not like insanely bigger. You know, we don't have an entire army of coaches running around. We have a very healthy amount of coaches who are going to be able to get the most out of the players that are playing on this football team, which is obviously one of the best things I like about having a large coaching staff is you get a lot of eyes on a lot of players and a lot of positional groups, and obviously that information can be relayed back to guys like Bruce Arians, Harold Goodwin, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, Casey Rogers, among other guys who are kind of the more established veteran-y types of head coaches and just coaches in general on this team. So I really like the idea of having a lot of coaches kind of keeping eyes and keeping tabs on a lot of kind of the more maybe underrated or under the radar types of players that are on this roster, because that's how you get chances to show what you can do on this team, is by making the most out of the reps that you get in practice, making the most of what you can do in your limited playing time in preseason, the regular season, stuff like that. You got to have people watching you so they can pay attention to see what you can do. So again, I like the idea. I think it's going to help out tremendously with the development of this team, especially with the youth, with the draft classes and whatnot as well, because obviously last year's draft class, I don't think that the previous coaching staff was 100% behind those guys. So guys like Alex Kappa, Ronald Jones, MJ Stewart, those guys are going to benefit in a really big way with this new coaching staff. And I think that we're going to see a lot of their developments among other guys on this roster, undrafted free agents as well. I think that we're going to see their development kind of soar and skyrocket, and I'm very excited about that possibility. Finally, last thing that I want to talk about is potential free agent additions that the Buccaneers could make before training camp, after training camp, in the preseason, in the regular season, whatever. The latest story pertaining to the Buccaneers cap space is that Mike Evans restructured his deal, which basically freed up $4 million in cap space for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, before everybody gets too excited, yes, the Buccaneers have $7 million in cap space now, but that $4 million that they got from that Mike Evans restructured contract is almost guaranteed to go to both Devin White and Jamel Dean for their rookie contracts. So the Buccaneers are basically going to be back to $3 million in cap space, but that does leave them a little bit of an opportunity to sign a player or two to a contract extension, or sorry, not a contract extension, just to a contract in general. I've seen a lot of Buccaneers media members talking about, oh, well, now they have enough wiggle room to sign another player or two, which leads me to believe that the Buccaneers media members definitely believe that a signing is going to be made at some point. So out of the available guys right now, who are some players that the Buccaneers could look at? Well, the first couple of guys that come to mind are guys that I've talked about before: Muhammad Wilkerson, Nick Perry, Derek Morgan. Those are all three guys that I still think could do a phenomenal job on this team as rotational type pieces. Obviously, Muhammad Wilkerson, I believe he got busted for a DWI, something like that, but I still think that you can roll the dice, sign him to a relatively cheap contract, even if you want to sign him to a $3 million deal to kind of wipe out all the money right then and there. I still think that it could be worth your value. Both Wilkerson, Perry, and Morgan, I think, are easily worth the $3 million. Taking a look at a couple of guys I haven't talked about, Jeremy Parnell, Ryan Schrader, and Donald Penn are both offensive tackles that I think could be very good fits on this team as well. They're all a little bit older. Jeremy Parnell is the youngest guy, and he is, I believe, 29 or 30, something along those lines, but all three of these guys are very seasoned veterans, and they all have some very good starting experience. Obviously, Donald Penn, he was the starting left tackle on this team for a long time, so I think that a reunion would be kind of cool. It could happen, it could not happen. We'll just have to wait and see there, but I do think that the Buccaneers could use a little bit more of a veteran-y infusion on this offensive line. We got it with Earl Walford, and I think that that's going awesome so far. I think I am very excited for that. He could be the starting right guard for this team. Obviously, he's going to have a battle with Alex Kappa, and we're going to see what happens there, but even if he's not the starter, he is still just an insanely flexible backup offensive lineman, and I think that that is a very valuable thing to this offensive line, because he can teach a lot of guys and he can mentor a lot of guys, especially some of the undrafted free agents that the Buccaneers might keep on this 53-man roster at the end of the day. So I think that you could continue to add that veteran-y type presence with guys like Jeremy Parnell, Ryan Schrader, and Donald Penn, and I think that they would be very solid additions. Guy that I want to talk about now, obviously these are all players who are currently free agents. I cannot go into guys who are going to potentially be cut because we would literally be here for hours, but the last guy I want to talk about is actually running back Chris Ivory. Now I know what you're going to say, but James, you just talked so great about both Ronald Jones and both Peyton Barber, and yes, I did talk very strongly about both those guys. I think that they're both going to be having a phenomenal season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but after that things get a little bit more murkier, things get a little bit more questionable in terms of the Buccaneers' depth at the running back position. You have Andre Ellington, who I think is a very good running back, although he hasn't played football in a couple of years, and it might be a little bit of a question mark after that. You do have some guys there, Dare Ogunbowale, Sean Wilson, among a couple of other guys, but I do think that you need to bring in a veteran to push those guys to do their absolute best. Obviously, Andre Ellington, he's a veteran in his own right, but I think bringing in a guy like Chris Ivory, he's 31 years old, he's had a ton of starting experience on multiple teams. I think that that could really put a shot in the arm of guys like Dare Ogunbowale, Sean Wilson, Andre Ellington, among other guys that the Buccaneers decided to bring in for that running back position. I believe Bruce Anderson too could use a little bit of a boost as well, but just kind of taking a little bit of a deeper look into Chris Ivory's connection with some of the Buccaneers coaching staff. Obviously Casey Rogers, Todd Bowles, he knows them very well because he was with Todd Bowles when Bowles was the head coach of the New York Jets, so they have that connection there, and I think that is something that could potentially happen later on down the line depending on how things work out. If Chris Ivory, wants to come to Tampa Bay, obviously Todd Bowles would say, I had him for a couple of years, he's a pretty decent running back, we could use him as a rotational type of guy. At the very least, the Buccaneers could use him as a power back because Chris Ivory, he's a pretty decent power back. He's a big guy, you can use him at the line of scrimmage and really send him in, and he could do a really good job of getting into the goal line and scoring in red zone positions at, say, like the 1 or 2 yard line. You could also argue that Peyton Barber could fill in that role as well, but again, like I said, with the offensive line, infusing that running back room with a little bit more of a veteran-y type presence, a guy who's had a lot of starting experience in this league before, is something that I think could be very valuable to guys like Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, Sean Wilson, Dario Ogunbowale, among others. Bruce Anderson as well. I keep on forgetting to mention him. I like Bruce Anderson, don't get it twisted, but yeah, those are kind of the guys who I think right now could be potential free agent additions for the Buccaneers with that extra $3 million that they have right now. Obviously, things are going to change. People are going to get released. I know a lot of people still want a guy like Eric Berry or just a safety in general. I don't think it's going to happen. Although if I had to pick one safety right now out of all the guys that are available, I would love Trey Boston. I think that he is insanely underrated, and I genuinely don't know why he doesn't have a contract right now, because he totally deserves it because he's a very good safety, but I don't think the Buccaneers are adding a safety. They have way too many draft picks invested in the safety position right now. But guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments section below. What do you think about the Buccaneers running back position? What do you think about the Buccaneers having a larger coaching staff? And what do you think about the Buccaneers making a possible free agent addition here or there, either before training camp, after training camp, during the preseason, or during the regular season? And who would you guys like to see the Buccaneers add? Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comment section below yet again, and I apologize once again for the video being late. But until the next video or the next live stream, I will see you guys in the next one. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, guys, and go Bucs.